What are some lessons that you think people learn too late in their lives?
To be happy with things the way they are, no matter what. Because no matter what it is what it is, and it's called life. And as we're living our life, not just trying to get over stuff and trying to push things away or tuck them away, if we're living through them, they have a lesson to teach. And we take that lesson with us and we go with it. It doesn't always make us happy.
Right. When was the moment you realized that lesson for yourself, like where you needed to just be happy with where you were in life and stop worrying about the things you couldn't control?
That's been happening over and over and over again, because it's not just one time. There are many times when things just get really hard and you don't know how you're going to go another step, but you have to. And so you pick one foot up, go through it. You live through it. You don't just pile up in a corner or pile it all on your shoulder and carry that around with you all the time. Take it, look at it, and do what you can, and then go on with your life. And sometimes, like when my husband asked for a divorce after 46 years of my marriage, I was totally broken. I was shattered. I felt like I couldn't hardly take another breath. And I was going home in my car, and I was awful. I was saying terrible things and just screaming at the world around me. Nobody wanted to be around me in that car. But I finally pulled over to the side of the road, and I got out of my car, and I looked back in, and I thought to myself, do I want to live the rest of my life like that? And it was awful, and I said, no, I don't. But what in the world can I do? So I'm talking to myself, and a message came back into my head that said, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad at it. And there was my voice, my name. So I had to claim what it was. And at that time, I decided to go home, do what I could do, talk to my dog and tell the dog what I was going to do. And the next day went into town and changed my license plate so it said to be glad. So that every time I got into my car, I saw that license plate. Whether I paid attention to it or not, I would have to, really, because I had to get into the carport and get into the car. And everybody behind me in line in the traffic had to pay attention. They didn't have to pay attention to it, but they would see it. And so this was a message that I had to carry on for the rest of my life, was to be glad. No matter where I was in traffic, no matter what was happening, at least be glad about what you could do in the process of going through it and living through it and learning from it.
And being married for 46 years is a long time in itself. And then having somebody that you really love and care about asking for divorce, I'm sure that had to, like you said, it really crushed you.
Well, it was terrible because we had done so many things. We'd started the American Holistic Medical Association. We'd been running ARV clinic. We'd raised 6 children. We had been a team, a couple that it was Bill and Gladys. Everything that was Bill and Gladys. We were together. And to have that shatter, it really felt like the end of my life. And however, I don't know how long much later it was. Maybe it was a year, but maybe not that long. I was able to write him a letter and thank him for giving me my freedom, because I had never had just able to sign something, Dr. Gladys. It always was Bill and Gladys. For all those years, it was Bill and Gladys. But now I had the opportunity and privilege of claiming who I was and actually standing up for it and living up to it.
Like you said, he wasn't just your husband; he was like your life partner. You did so many things together, and I imagine the healing and the grieving process from that must have been super challenging and tough. And I think a lot of people, when they get to that age that you were at, they would have been like, you know what, that's it. Might as well just not look for love, not pursue anything else in my life. That's kind of the final chapter, and it's done. You changed your license plate. You wrote him a letter. What else helped you bounce back after such a terrible event?
My amazing children. I have these six, I call them young people, although during the COVID, I let them know they were the elderly one and I was the ancient one because they were amazing. And I had this amazing community of people who were working with me with the concept of the living village. I had a lot to do. There was a lot of work still to do. I had to look for that, not for what I was giving up so much as for what I had now to reach for.
And you mentioned that you thanked your husband in this letter for giving you the freedom to like be yourself. If you could expand on like what was the silver lining in that divorce? Like what were you able to gain from that you didn't have while you were married?
Well, it was freedom to be able to think things through for myself with the help of the friends that I had and all of that, my kids and so on, and the foundation. But it was a perspective that put me in charge of what I was not the two of us in charge of what it was. So it was no longer Bill and Gladys, it was now Dr. Gladys, and I could claim that.
And what was the like self-discovery process like for you after that? Because you mentioned you guys did so much together and then you found your freedom. Like what kind of things did you start to learn about yourself?
Well, I found out that there were a lot of things that I had won in the team that we were, Bill and Gladys, that I'd been the initiator of. There were many things in the work that we'd done that I really was in charge of. And I could step into those easily and keep moving until I found the solid ground to go farther on. It doesn't happen overnight, but you live it. And you live the next day, and you live the next day. And you go on, because I was still practicing as a holistic physician, and I had patients who were dependent on me and my community, and it was something I had to continue to do, and not just had to, I wanted to continue to do.
You talked about how you found this silver lining from that divorce and you thanked him. Like, what was the forgiveness process like, or have you actually totally forgiven him?
It was a matter of letting go of something that I no longer needed to carry on. It was a matter, sometimes, well, it was like a patient that I worked with for several years, and she had bad shoulder pain. And we would try one thing after another, and it never helped her. And then this one day, she was getting ready to finish the work that we had done together. And so she went to pick up her shoulder bag, and she put it on her shoulder, and we realized that she was walking around with this heavy shoulder bag causing the pain, but we hadn't looked at what it was until at that moment when we realized it. We just sat down and laughed until we were almost silly, because we had worked so hard to find out what it was that was causing this awful pain that she had, and we were not looking at the actual thing. So sometimes there are some simple things like that that are holding us back. And if we can continue to look for them, and then we'll find them if we look for them. Point is, if you don't continue to look for them, you'll never find them. So if you just give up and say, well, I don't know what you'd say, but it was something that we had to go beyond just that process.
And I would say that from people that I've talked to as they've gotten older, like forgiveness is something that they wish they would have practiced earlier in their life, because they end up holding on to resentment. They end up destroying relationships that maybe shouldn't be destroyed. They end up not coming to peace with themselves. And they end up like realizing that later in life and saying, I wish I would have, let go more. What is your advice to people that are just holding on to resentments that they've had for years towards others or towards themselves, and they're not letting things go? They're not forgiving themselves. They're not forgiving other people.
It's accepting the fact that your position in something has value and you need to continue it. It's like when something like that happens, sometimes you just have to stand up for something. I was kept, because of my weird opinions in the medical field, I kept being called back to the committee of doctors who were the regulatory committee for our community, for the Maricopa County. And this one day I had gone back in and been reprimanded for what I'd done, and I accepted the complaint, and I was walking out into the hall, and this one doctor came up behind me and he taps me on my shoulder and he says, now let me tell you something, honey. Oh, I turned around and he pushed a button in me, and I looked at him and I punched him on the shoulder and I said, you don't call me honey. I'm your peer, age-wise and professional, and you will not call me honey. And he just backed up and walked away. My lawyer was leaning on the wall laughing. And when I told my daughter, who was my partner in practice, she said, Mom, you didn't. But there come some times when you just simply have to stand up for what it is that you believe, and you need to continue doing. And if you are doing that, sometimes you'll be, many times you'll be confronted and asked to change the way it is in which you're doing something. But if you in your heart know that there is reality to what it is that you believe, and I knew that love and life were the essence of what it was that I was working with, and sometimes love and life presented themselves in very peculiar positions, so that I had to do strange things working with this particular patient or something like that were considered, well, they weren't normal.
Yeah.
But I felt that there was something that patient and I could do together and work together and live through this process that she was going through, because it's always an individual thing.
And going back to the topic of happiness, I feel like the common trap, and it's in line with what you said, is when I get this, I'll be happy. When I get this relationship, I'll be happy. When I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. When I reach this goal, I'll be happy. What's your message to people that are constantly pursuing something new to make them happy?
Well, I think that's fine, but don't give up the things that have helped you on the step ladder of getting to where it is that you are. The whole concept of femifestation, have I talked to you about that?
No.
I don't know, must have been 20, 15 years ago or something. I somehow or other, in talking with this friend of mine, and we were talking about how it was that we were doing things and working things out. And she said, well, I think we need another word in our vocabulary. She said, we keep talking about manifesting, so we work and work and work and we try to manifest. I think we have a word that's called femifest. And so together we said, well, okay, if you manifest, that's like Jacob's ladder. And we as women are continuing to manifest something that is like climbing Jacob. You know, you get a degree, you buy a house, you manifest something. That's great. We need to do that. But that's not the end. That's not the beginning of things. We didn't get to the point of manifesting something until we had femifested something complete. It's like a pregnancy. When we're pregnant, we as women are pregnant, we are carrying this child who is living with us as one unit. We are one unit. That child is manifesting within us as the person that they are, but they don't really manifest until they take their first breath. So as they're being born, they manifest what it has been that we have been femifesting with them. So the word femifest has been very helpful to me in watching how the path that I've traveled has been an interesting one of just going along and doing the things that need to be done in order to manifest what it is that we need to do. It's like Jacob's ladder, one and then another. To femifest, it's like a spiral. You can be up on the 6th level of this spiral and look down and see what's going on in the 2nd level. A mother can have one child in her arm and the next one playing on the floor and knowing what they're all doing. Femifestation is a good word to put into our vocabulary about how anything manifests. Because even if you say, for instance, a man wants to build a table, well, he has to go through the whole process of femifesting the pattern and the plan and all of that before he's ever ready to manifest it. The whole process of femifesting has to be a process of developing to a point where you're ready to manifest. And for me, that was a very important concept to continue with.
When it comes to manifestation and achieving things, I think one of the most important things for people to do is to learn to love the process and embrace the journey, which is kind of, we've talked a bit about this already when it comes to happiness. You're going to be, I think, 104 in November, and you've lived quite the life and then some, and you've also been able to embrace the entire journey, the ups and downs, no matter what's happened to you, no matter how old you are, you've always managed to bounce back and have this smile on your face. What advice do you have for people that are maybe in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or even their 50s that are just having trouble embracing the journey?
Look for the light, look for the love, look for the joy. It's there. If you don't look for it, you're not going to see it. If you're just looking for what's bad about it, you get stuck. And, if you're carrying a bag of pain over one shoulder and you keep looking at that, you're going to get a stiff neck. It's going to be hard for you to ever pull your head back. But if you're aware of it and you know it's there, but you turn your face forward and look for the light and look for the love and look for the hope, You'll find it. It's there. It's just that you have to look for it.
What about for people who are like already 40, 50, 60 years old and they're in a dark place? They think they've already peaked. Maybe they just like got fired from their dream job, or they were in this amazing marriage that just ended, or they had some health scare and they think that they've already peaked and they can't get back up. What's your message to them?
You're not going to be able to get back up until you get back up. Okay? I mean, shake the wrinkles out of the suit and straighten yourself up and get back up. If you don't take that step of getting back up, you'll just stay stuck.
This episode is brought to you by Element. Whether or not you're working out, hydration is so important. Water alone is key, but drinking water on its own sometimes just doesn't cut it. That's where Element electrolytes come in. They have formulated a science-backed electrolyte ratio that tastes absolutely amazing. Plus, it doesn't have any sugar, artificial colors, or other sketchy ingredients to hold you back. I've been using Element for years, and my favorite flavor is definitely the citrus salt. I take it either first thing in the morning when I wake up or after a workout or a run. After taking it, I always feel replenished and ready to move on to the next thing I am doing. I know when I am properly hydrated, I perform and feel my best. So if you're looking to optimize your hydration, go to drinklmnt.com/DougBopst to get a free sample pack with any purchase. Again, go to drinklmnt.com/DougBopst or click the link below for a free sample pack with any purchase. Now back to the show. Maybe provide some inspiration on some of the things that have been some of your biggest accomplishments over the last, say, 30 years or so. So from like age 70 to 100, to give people some hope that no matter what stage of life they're at, they can not only get back up, but they can actually reinvent themselves.
Well, I can't believe that now at 103, I'm talking to people around the world. I mean, isn't this the most awesome thing? Not only can you talk, but I'm talking to people in Timbuktu. I mean, there are people around the world. We humans are human beings, and we're the same, no matter what we are. When I was a kid in India, the little Indian kids kept rubbing my arms to get the white off. They wanted me to be brown like them. So it's a matter of realizing that we humans are all the same. We were created as human beings. See, I have this idea. This is not a philosophy. It's not a theology or anything. It's just an idea in my head. That when God created the universe, whatever God is to whoever the person is thinking about this, God said, all right, now I've created this amazing, perfect universe. Everything is perfect in this universe. And now he created us, the human being, and he looked at us and he said, and now I've created you. And you are the only living beings in this universe that have the opportunity for choice and free will. So therefore, I, God, give you dominion over this universe that I've created. And you're now in process of accepting that dominion. And we, in our arrogance, thought we were being given dominance. That meant, oh boy, it's mine. I can take it and do whatever I want. And look what we've done to our earth. Look how we have really not taken dominion, which means taking care of. We haven't taken care of Mother Earth. We have the choice to do that, but we haven't done it. So I think it's that kind of understanding that if we're going to live a life of love and hope and caring, we take care of each other. And each other means the plants and the animals and the critters. We take care of what we have to in order to be able to do the work that needs to be done to help the other creatures, living beings on this earth. We're in it together.
We are, but there's so many people that are struggling right now with stress, mental health, anxiety, relationships. Like, what do you think people are doing wrong?
Who isn't struggling with it? Okay. We're all struggling with it. We all have places where we think, I can't go on. And then we pick up one foot and we get up and we do what has to be done. I don't think any person, in my experience, there have been time after time when I think I absolutely couldn't go on. But other people were depending on me. There were things that were in process, but the foundation needed, there were things that needed to be done. And so in order to get them done, I had to get up and do what I did in order to keep it going. It's because we're all in it together.
We are all in this together, and we're all relational beings. And I think that one of the biggest, lessons people also learn later on in life, and I know there's research on this, is the value of relationships. So many people have broken relationships now. So many people are having a hard time forming relationships that last long term. What are a few things you would have done differently earlier in your life regarding relationships, knowing what you know now?
Well, I want to say one thing that I did that was right. Okay. As a family, we had this friend, James, who was a family friend. He was a bachelor. He had dinner with us a lot of times and so on and so forth. But then he moved into dementia. He was still the person that we loved, but we had to find him a place where he could be taken care of. He was a bachelor, and we had to be taken care of. So we found a nice room where he was taken care of, and we knew he was. And one week I went over to see him. But when I went to see him, I took him a little plant. It was in a little pot, a little green plant. It wasn't much of a plant. It was just a little plant. And when I went into the room where he was, I said to him, James, I brought you a gift. It's a gift you take care of. This plant needs da-da-da. And he's just walking around looking at things, and I don't know that he's hearing anything that I'm saying, but I keep on talking about the plant and what it's going to need, and it's going to need his love and caring and so on. And I'm just going on and on. And he's just looking at things, and I don't know if he's heard anything I've said. But okay. I gave him the plant, and then I left. A week later, I went back, and he met me at the door, and he said, magic, magic. And I'd never seen this part of him for years. And I said, what? He says, look. And he says, box. And he goes over to the energy box on the wall. And he says, push this button, everything cool. Plant loves cool. And then he says, push this button, everything hot. Plant doesn't like hot. And I thought, oh no, that isn't that amazing. I was never able to get through to him in the way that little plant got through. Now, I don't know how that plant got through, but the fact is that he was reaching to the plant. And because he was taking care of that plant and loving that plant, love became the thing that was making it possible for him to see magic in this world. If we're in a relationship with somebody or something that seems to have no response for us, let's just keep loving it if it's worthwhile. Keep loving it until we really establish that love connection and it becomes real, And it is magic.
How has your definition of love changed over the years?
It's gotten deeper. I learned to love even the concept of actually being able to put people who are not very likable in a position where if they have to be in the work that I'm doing or in the process of what's going on, find some way that I can like something about them that I can hook into so that we can keep on keeping the relationship going. Because if I keep looking for the things that I don't like about him or her, I'm going to not be able to find, and these things that I do like. But I start looking for things, they're doing some things. I'm thinking of one person particularly who is kind of hard to, a difficult person, but he could grow plants that are amazing.
And a lot of people, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, they're having a hard time with relationships and they're looking for the perfect partner, the perfect relationship. And oftentimes you could be with somebody who's amazing, but the few like flaws that that person has may overshadow all of the amazing things because we're just so focused on the perfection aspect of relationships. Regarding that, what do you believe matters most when it comes to building a romantic relationship?
Looking for the light, looking for the love, looking for the hope, looking for the things that work for you. Because there may be everything. I don't know any relationship that I've really experienced deeply that hasn't hit some times that have been hard. But you look for what's right with them. You want to see in that relationship. Keep looking for the light. Keep looking for the love. Looking for the green little plant that has a box that you can find something. I mean, that's ridiculous, but it isn't ridiculous. It's hope and it's love and it's healing and it's light.
And so one of the things that I think people really love asking people like yourself about who have lived an amazing life, have an amazing story, have an amazing journey, like you lived for over 10 decades, right? Is there's a lot of people that they focus on the wrong things in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. They're like, oh, this matters. Having a ton of money matters. Having this car matters. Having this house. All these things matter. And they get to this point in their life and they're like, it mattered a little bit, but not to the extent that I thought it would. What have you learned at your age now as far as like what actually matters in life and what doesn't matter in life?
You can't bank love. You can't put love in a box and put it in a bank and say, I'm putting more and bank more. It doesn't. Love has to move. Love and life have to go together. If you're, how much do I love you? How do you even begin to think about how much I love you? If I love you, I love you. And how much it is today may not be the same tomorrow. I mean, we may do some things that make us angry with each other. We may not love each other so much tomorrow, but maybe the next day we love each other better. It's a matter of living through it and finding what it is that's working and not looking for what isn't working.
I would say one of the other lessons that people learn later on in life is that they should have taken better care of their health. I think one of the main reasons that you're thriving at 103 years old is that you've made your health a priority. What are some of the things that actually matter when it comes to taking care of your health and aging healthily?
Well, it's how you take care of yourself. Do you care for yourself enough to feed yourself properly? By properly, I mean not just the goodies, but the things that make you more healthy. And that all you need to do is to listen to the world around you, and then listen to what your own body is telling you. If you, my son here, who helps me all the time, he can't eat garlic. Well, I like garlic. And it's a matter of finding out what you can do that makes it right for you. Here's the thing. You have to be enough in touch with your own self to love yourself well enough to take care of yourself. And it's like when the whole business of the inner you, the inner person, when my oldest son came through Phoenix, he'd finished his training as an orthopedic surgeon, and he was going down to Del Rio, Texas to start his practice. And he said, Mom, I'm going to practice. I'm going into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hand. I don't think I can trust. I don't know if I can do that. And I said to him, well, Carl, let me tell you something that I've learned. The work that you have earned in orthopedic surgeon is awesome. If I have something broken in me, I don't want a butcher fixing it. I want an orthopedic surgeon who knows what he's doing and understands this and has gone through the training of learning it. So don't degrade your training as an orthopedic surgeon. Use it to the fullest. But as you're using it, realize that what you're doing is you're not the one that's doing the healing. You're the one that's teaching the patient, physician within them, how that person is going to take what you're saying and use it to do the healing. Because unless you're communicating with love to that patient, that physician within them, the patient isn't hearing anything. He's not, he's just not listening. But if you're communicating with him in a way that the patient understands what it is that you're saying, if you work hard enough with loving that patient enough that you can keep that connection going, it's the physician within that patient that does the real healing. But you're a pivotal part of have that process continue.
You mentioned that the single most important thing for health and longevity is staying connected to yourself and caring for yourself. A lot of people have a hard time with that because they're so focused on external things and they're not focused on themselves. What have been some things that have helped you in recent years stay connected to yourself?
Having people around me who love me enough to tell me that's enough makes it different. But if I've kept on doing something that has just either worn out its time or worn me out, there comes a time when you just have to say no. You just have to be aware of what it is that you can do and what you can't. And it's not a failure. It's a matter of, people think if I tell them to go home and take a rest, that's letting them go home and be lazy. Taking a rest is not, it's something to do. You need to go and take a rest. That's doing something. It's actually an action that helps you do what it is that makes you continue to do the work that you do.
I think people have just such a hard time staying focused on themselves, and they're so worried about the opinions of other people. You talked about one of the most meaningful moments in your life was when you got the freedom and your power back to stand up for yourself, speak for yourself, have your own ideas. You mentioned the letter you wrote to your ex-husband. You mentioned standing up for yourself to your coworker. Talk about the value of people standing up for themselves and how important it is for them to be happy in their life.
The idea is manifest enough to recognize that within you are desires and hopes and promises and so on that are really kind of interesting. And you as a person are doing that and you're listening to it and you think so. If you reach to your inner things that are going on within you and work with those so that they become real and you share them with other people with love, you don't box them, you don't bank them. The energy that you put into working with the things that you're doing is, if it's done with love and caring for yourself as you're doing it, then not only are you growing, but the people that you're working with are going too.
Well, Dr. Gladys, this has been incredible. I always appreciate talking to you. You have an amazing story, very inspiring. And I think my audience is going to get a lot of value out of this conversation. So I wanted to thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I really think you're going to like this video as well. I'll see you there.